Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Old era. My crew has billions of strong points. The senior bartender has traveled to the world of pirates. Obtain a summoning system. The plot has not yet begun. This is the era of Rox.Escano, Misakin Osaka, Tanaka, Aizen, and others all became crew members of Dean Reading.Warring States period. I thought the Rox Regiment would become the toughest guy, but it wasn't until I met Dean Reading. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 01 Senior Bartender at Hachinos, seeking fresh flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Holy Mary Maria. In the magnificent palace, an emergency meeting convened by a naval marshal is currently underway. Please share with everyone the information currently available to our Navy. Sitting in position C is a burly middle-aged man with scars on his face. That pair of sharp eyes and a body full of scars represent his outstanding contributions to the Navy and world governments. Yes, he is the current Navy Marshal, named Clay. Don't argue, the Marshal's original work in front of steel bone space is completely blank, and the author added it himself. If there are any errors, just say them in the comments section. Okay, Marshal Clay. A handsome man in a black suit standing next to Clay nodded lightly. He is not under the jurisdiction of the Navy, but under the management of the world government. The reason why he can interfere in the affairs of the Navy is also arranged by the world government. He opened the document in his hand, which read the latest intelligence that their Navy had at sea. According to the intelligence we have, just a few days ago, on the pirate island of Hachinos, rumors spread from inside out that there was something inside the island that could fulfill anyone's dream. This was not originally worth the attention of our world governments or navies. However, according to the information held by the Navy, the great pirates, Lox D. Gibek, Charlotte Lingling, Edward Newgate, Ski, and so on, all headed towards Hachinos. This has to be taken seriously by our world governments and navies. Before they form a greater threat, the world government's intention is to destroy it. The above is the content of this emergency meeting. After the black suit man finished reading the information, he closed the folder and retreated to the side, quietly listening. Everyone. Have you all heard me? Marshal Clay drank tea leisurely while calmly speaking. In fact, according to Clay's personality, if it weren't for the pressure from the world government to eliminate all those that could pose a threat to the world government, he wouldn't have convened this emergency meeting at all. Rox, Charlotte Lingling, Edward Newgate, Ski. If it's really as intelligence suggests, then the situation seems very serious, said a senior naval officer with a furrowed brow and a somewhat hollow expression in his eyes. Indeed, if they come together by chance and become a new group, the consequences are incalculable, continued another senior naval officer. No matter what he's doing with so much, we're worried they might gather together and become a new group. So, let's just take advantage of the fact that they haven't gathered yet and destroy them. You're right. Everyone nodded in agreement. At the same time, Clay stood up, took the naval cloak draped over the table, draped it over, and said solemnly, "So, next, I'll arrange the battle plan. Pirate Island Hachinos." Because of that rumor, news spread that the island could fulfill anyone's dream, so at this moment, various pirates, mountain bandits, and folk experts with their own dreams are gathered on the island. On the island, at the Reading Tavern. This tavern is not very large, but it was crowded with people. In the tavern, there was constant noise, shouting, and laughter. Dean Reading, I didn't expect us to meet again so soon. I really missed the wine you made. In a corner, a burly young man with a crescent-shaped white beard curved upwards said with a smile. Dean Reading sat opposite him, with solitary lines on both sides of his mouth and a faint smile. Dean Reading, he didn't originally belong to this world. He is from a blue planet. And here, there is a world called Pirate King. And the One Piece, in Dean Reading's former world, is nothing more than an anime. Moreover, the timeline here is not from the era of Luffy. It's not Roger's era either. But rather the timeline of the Rox era, which is even earlier than Roger's. Of course, Dean Reading has a system. However, as soon as you start wearing more and more clothes, reshaping your body and giving it a name will activate the system. By now, Dean Reading has been here for over a year. As for the system, it is still showing activation. As a traveler, Dean Reading is no stranger to the burly man sitting across from him. Yes, he is one of the future famous four emperors, known as the world's strongest man with a white beard, named Edward Newgate. Edward, I'm afraid you came to Hachinos not for the sake of the bar I made, but for your dreams. Dean Reading picked up a homemade wine and smiled faintly. P.S. If there are some names from the old era, I will use the ones from the new era for the narration, which may have a better sense of immersion. For example, Edward Newgate wrote a white beard for the narration. Shirji wrote about the Golden Lion. 02 The Lox Pirates are about to be established. Seeking fresh flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon being said by Dean Reading, Whitebeard immediately grinned. Gullah. You guys are really concerned about the outside world. Whitebeard held a large cup in his hand, leaned his back against a chair, and then drank the fine wine in his hand before slowly passing by. That's right, I did come for that rumor, but that's just one of them, and most importantly, I still miss the wine you made. Speaking of which, Dean Reading's ability to own his own tavern is largely due to his white beard. Because a year ago, Dean Reading just came to this world and became a waiter at a certain tavern to make a living. In the past world, he was already a seasoned bartender with rich brewing skills. So, in his free time, he would mix his own drinks and pass the time at the bar. That's why, by chance, Whitebeard came to this tavern. At that time, Dean Reading had just mixed the wine and had not even had time to try it himself. After Bai Huzi smelled the aroma, he ordered this kind of wine. And then one shipment cannot be accepted. In the end, Whitebeard just gave the gold and silver treasures he had obtained before he could send them back to his hometown to Dean Reading and opened his own tavern. Upon hearing Whitebeard's words, Dean Reading just smiled indifferently. In fact, whether Whitebeard greets his own concocted wine or comes for his own dreams, he doesn't care too much. So, Edward, have you found something that can fulfill your dream? Dean Reading casually asked. At this point, Whitebeard's gaze became more serious. There is a high possibility, and I believe you have also noticed that more and more famous pirates have come here these days. I hope I can find my dream home here. Seeing the serious expression on Whitebeard's face, Dean Reading fell into silence. He vividly remembers that Whitebeard's biggest dream was to get a family. However, according to the progress of the original work, Whitebeard will become a member of the Rox Pirates. However, according to his current tone, it seems that he will become a family-like group with those who come to the island. Although the Rox Pirates have not yet been established. Is it difficult or not? Did the Whitebeard in the original also have hope for the Rox Pirates? Just later on, my heart gradually became cold. Guessing, Dean Reading nodded. He thinks it's very likely like this. However, Dean Reading had no intention of extinguishing Whitebeard's hope. After all, there are many things that I find it better to explore on my own. So, I congratulate you in advance here, Edward. Dean Reading smiled slightly, picked up the glass from the table, and toasted to Bai Huzi. Whitebeard naturally didn't hesitate. After filling his cup, he raised it, touched it, and drank it all at once. Good wine, if only I had known you earlier, Gullah. Whitebeard smiled up at the sky, then seemed to remember something, and then looked straight at Dean Reading and spoke. What about you? What's your dream? You can't spend your whole life brewing and making bars here. If that's the case, then your life will be in vain, Dean Reading. At this point, Dean Reading fell silent. As Whitebeard said, if this life is once again mediocre, it is indeed a waste of life. Of course, Dean Reading also took this into consideration. If the system has not been successfully activated, he just earns money, taking 5, 6, 7, 8, and 90 having a wife, and then living in seclusion in the deep mountains, leading a carefree and happy life. If the system is successfully activated, he will definitely leave a profound impression of his past in this world of the Pirate King. Then, 3,000 beautiful women from the harem lived in seclusion in the deep mountains, living a carefree and happy life. Me. Dean Reading gave a bitter smile and then continued, I'll accept fate's arrangement. My own destiny is in my own hands, retorted Whitebeard. Dean Reading just grinned and didn't answer the question. He stood up and replied, there isn't much wine left to make. I'll go and get some more. Whitebeard nodded but didn't say much. He doesn't want to interfere too much with others' choices. The sunset sets in the west, with the afterglow of the setting sun. The Reading Tavern has closed. Under normal circumstances, at this point in time, the lively and noisy scene on the island during the day should gradually fade away. But Hachinos, on the other hand, reached a climax and was incredibly lively. On the island, all the pirates and experts from all over the world gathered on the square. Chia ha ha ha. In mid-air, a wave of disdainful laughter suddenly came from the air. Everyone looked up and saw a tall man with long golden hair, like a lion's mane, and 2 long knives hanging from his waist. New book upload, please give it your support. 03 The duel between the Golden Lion and Charlotte Lingling, seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yes, he is the great pirate of the future, alongside the One Piece King, Gerd D. Roger, and the future's most powerful man, Edward Newgate, known as the Whitebeard. At the same time, it is also the first pirate in the history of Advancing City to escape in the original work in the future Golden Lion Shirji. There's something on Hachinos that can fulfill everyone's dreams, it's just a scam. The Golden Lion rudely debunked the rumor, and upon hearing it, it was evident that anger was rapidly surging at a speed visible to the naked eye. Their gaze fell on the initiator of the rumor, who was a man with the same burly figure and one eye. He, like the Golden Lion, is also a great pirate named Lattice, offering a bounty of up to 580 million belly. Originally, Lattice was just planning to deceive some moderately strong individuals into coming to Hachinos and accepting them in order to strengthen his own power. But to my surprise, it also attracted many great pirates who were even more powerful than myself. La 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 la. Lattice forced a smile and began his brainwashing speech, what are you talking about? Ski, nowadays, many strong people are gathered in Hachinos, and our power has all hit us together. Isn't this something that can achieve anyone's dream? As long as our strength hits together, we can earn incalculable wealth and even dominate the world. Dominate the world. In a corner, a tall man with a certain black hat covering his face, as well as a man wearing a black robe, his eyes flickered slightly. Yes, he will be in the future the captain of the Lox Pirates, whose full name is Lox D. Jibek, abbreviated as Lox. He was the hegemon before Roger became famous, with great ambition to become the king of the world. When Lox heard the 4 words, dominate the world, his cells began to become active. Yes, dominating the world is his dream. Nowadays, Hachinos has gathered numerous powerful pirates, which is a great opportunity for him. Seeing everyone's emotions calm down for a moment, Lattice quickly took advantage of the heat and continued speaking. Brothers, let's work together and achieve something great. Then, we will have countless wealth and even supreme power. Obviously, a portion of those who already possess it have been overwhelmed by this high-priced words. What's going on? Lattice, are you going to say that you should be the one in charge next? The Golden Lion clasped his fists in front of him and said with a wicked smile on his face. Once Lattice says yes, he will not hesitate to attack him, defeat him, and then take over as the leader. For the group of subordinates sent up, the Golden Lion is willing to take over. Lattice felt uneasy in his heart. If he had confidence in his own strength, he would naturally say so. However, there are many strong people gathered here. Specifically observed. The great pirate, Rox, offers a bounty of 1.838 billion Bailey. Edward Newgate, with a bounty of 954 million Pele. Charlotte Lingling, with a bounty of 812 million Pele. Shiki, there is a bounty of 768 million Bailey. Wait a minute. Relying solely on these, Lattice dared not act rashly. It doesn't matter who is the leader, what's important is that when we gather together, we become brothers, brothers who work together to achieve our dreams. Lattice shouted. When these words fell, the reactions of the others were not too strong, but only one person secretly rejoiced in his heart. Yes, that's Whitebeard. This is the dream I long for. After listening to Lattice's words, Whitebeard sighed to himself. Surprisingly, it doesn't matter who is the leader, so. To put it mildly, let's be your leader, jia ha ha ha. The Golden Lion laughed out loud. Upon hearing this, Lattice felt very uncomfortable in his heart, but he didn't dare to say much. He had originally wanted to become a big brother, but he didn't expect to recognize one. However, Lattice's reluctance to speak too much does not mean that others are hesitant to speak too much. The Golden Lion was at the forefront, and Charlotte Lingling was the first to refuse. Wei Guo. Accompanied by a soft drink. A giant sword energy shockwave rushed towards the Golden Lion at an extremely fast speed. After sensing the danger, the Golden Lion immediately reacted. I saw him quickly draw out two long knives from his waist and defend himself. With a bang. A powerful airflow, centered around the Golden Lion, quickly spread in all directions. Drink. With a roar from the Golden Lion, he began to exert force and changed the trajectory of the giant sword energy shock wave that was coming towards him. Finally, it collided with a rock. With a loud bang, the rock was instantly shattered. Cheers and cheers. The rich smoke and dust rapidly rise at a speed visible to the naked eye. Some fragments of sand and stones kept popping out of the smoke and dust. The Golden Lion regained its senses, its eyes blooming with killing intent. At the same time, Charlotte Lingling leaped up from the crowd. Charlotte Lingling, now, is not like in the original work of the future, she is a fat woman. On the contrary, Stealing is the opposite, now having a hot physique. I saw Charlotte Lingling wielding a huge sword and smiling as she slashed towards the Golden Lion. I am qualified to be the leader here. Looking at Charlotte Lingling flying towards her, the Golden Lion was slightly taken aback, then slightly raised its lips and sneered, I recognize you, Charlotte Lingling. The new book kneels down to seek all the data. 04 Rox and the Golden Lion, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In an instant, Charlotte Lingling has arrived waving her giant sword. The weapons of both sides collided. Suddenly, a strong airflow began to spread in all directions. Squeezing. The huge impact shattered the ground where the Golden Lion stood. The cracks are rapidly spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chia ha ha ha. I am the man who has the qualification to rule the world. The resolute gaze of the Golden Lion was fixed on Charlotte Lingling. Upon hearing this, Charlotte Lingling instinctively revealed a disdainful smile. I, Lingling, am the woman who became the king of the sea. Accompanied by the sound of words falling. Around the collision weapon, energy waves flickered like lightning, whipping the earth and splashing thick smoke and dust. Just as Charlotte Lingling and the Golden Lion were preparing to launch a second round of attack. Suddenly, a black mist descended from the sky. After Charlotte Lingling and the Golden Lion sensed the danger. Immediately jumped backwards and leave. Black mist fell in the middle of them. Quickly, a figure emerged. After everyone saw their faces clearly, they couldn't help but be taken aback. That's wrong. It can't be wrong, that's the pirate with a bounty of over 1.8 billion, Rox.Escano. Unexpectedly. This man also came here. Do you only realize now? I saw him this morning. TSK. It seems that the next thing is going to become more interesting. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Rox no longer knew when he had taken off the hat that covered his face. He stood between the Golden Lion and Charlotte Lingling, with a slightly arrogant smile on his face. Your dreams. Me, Rox, can all satisfy you, how about it? Do you want to cooperate? Rox spoke out first. The Golden Lion wants to rule the world, and Charlotte Lingling wants to be the king of the sea, although this is somewhat in line with his goal. However, Rox didn't care. He knew that a person's abilities and energy were limited, and to become the world's hegemon, he needed to have his own power. Of course, Rox is saying so now, but in reality, Rox's real idea is just to use their abilities to become their own chess pieces and dominate the world. Chia. After hearing Rox's words, the Golden Lion burst into laughter. I didn't expect such a low-end scam to lure you, Rox, too. Rox, however, didn't take it seriously and said with a serious expression, Shiki, you only see the surface. Please take a closer look. The most promising pirates in this new world have gathered here. As long as we cooperate, money, power, and reputation, why worry? You all say. That rumored guy doesn't have the qualifications to be in charge, so, do I, Rox, have the qualifications? Everyone remained silent upon hearing it. The strength of Rox is naturally unquestionable. Most people still remember the news that shocked the world in the past. The Golden Lion glanced around and indeed, as Rox said, most of the most promising pirates in the New World were here. Now, his reputation may not be small or big, but the reputation of Rox is quite impressive. If the pirates gathered here really become a group, under the leadership of Rox, then there is no need to think too much. In the short term, this will become a terrifying presence. And he can also use this group to silently accumulate his reputation, or perhaps even dig corners. Of course, there is not only the Golden Lion who has this idea, and Charlotte Lingling not far away is also the same. No wonder in the original work, the crew members of the Rox pirates had such a bad relationship, often killing each other. Originally, before boarding the ship, the crew had already harbored their own ulterior motives. At this moment, the Golden Lion waved his two long knives and said calmly, surprisingly, then I'll see if you can make my knife agree. As soon as the words fell, the Golden Lion leaped forward and launched an attack on Rox. Shwa shwa shwa. Countless sword energy charged towards Rox. And Rox jumped horizontally, easily avoiding the sword energy attack of the Golden Lion. Drink. At this point, the Golden Lion was approaching, waving two long knives and chopping heavily. At this moment, Rox did not dodge because he knew he needed to defeat the man in front of him in order to agree to cooperate. The armed aura quickly covered the hand and then swung out a punch. With a bang. A huge collision sound sounded. Time passed by in a blink of an eye. This won't take a while. The Golden Lion has already been defeated by Rox. Lying in the big pit, the Golden Lion finds it difficult to calm down. Step by step. Rox walked slowly to the side of the Golden Lion, reached out his hand, and said with a seductive smile, "Come on, Shiki, let's work together." The Golden Lion remained silent for a moment, then grinned and said, "You guy." In the end, Ski reached out his hand and reached a cooperative relationship with Rox. Lingling, do you also need a battle? Rox turned around and his gaze shifted to Charlotte Lingling. Promise him, Lingling, such an opportunity is rare. Beside Charlotte Lingling, there was a short and chubby man with big lips and a bird-shaped nose, and he was Charlotte Lingling's earliest partner Longbread. 05 Late System, Receiving Compensation, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No need, just follow what you said. I'm also quite interested in what you said about cooperation. Charlotte Lingling nodded in response. Ha ha ha. After hearing Charlotte Lingling's words, Rox burst out laughing again. He knew that as long as these thorns were handled properly, the rest would not be difficult. Rox's gaze swept around him, then he opened his hand and shouted, "Hi, come on, brothers, let's conquer this world together." This statement may seem insignificant, but in reality, the rendering effect is very strong, making some already ambitious people all tempted. And with a loud shout. The Whitebeard standing in the crowd hesitated a bit. He has also heard a lot about Rox. This person is ruthless and ambitious. What he doesn't know is whether he will achieve what he wants after working with him. Just as he was hesitating, suddenly a voice came into his ear. "Edward, you're still hesitating. Aren't you here to pursue your dreams too?" Upon hearing the sound, Whitebeard walked out of his thoughts and looked up slightly. At this moment, a path of diameter had already been opened in the crowd, and Rox was slowly approaching. "Don't hesitate, Edward. I, Rox, will fulfill all of your dreams." Speaking for a while, Rox had already arrived at Whitebeard's side and extended his hand. Two pairs of deep pupils looked at each other, clearly indicating that Whitebeard did not believe too much in Rox. However, on second thought, his own strength is not strong enough. Pursuing his dreams is simple, but if he wants to protect them, he needs strong strength. Strong enough to turn any battle around on his own. Golala. Then I'll just trust you, this guy. Whitebeard reached out his hand and shook hands with Rox. From a distance, this picture seems to contain something belonging to the alternation of two eras. Of course, Whitebeard also had some hope for Rox. Even if the development in the future is not as good as he wishes, he will still consider this journey of working with Rox as the best experience. On a nearby rock, Dean Reading was holding a homemade wine, drinking it while keeping an eye on the situation not far away. Can I also consider myself witnessing the birth of the strongest pirate group? With a murmur, Dean Reading slowly stood up, patted the dust on his buttocks, and then stretched lazily. Alright, it's getting late too. It's time to go back and prepare dinner. After speaking, Dean Reading had just taken a few steps when suddenly, a mechanical sound that made him feel familiar and unfamiliar sounded in his ear. Ding! System activation successful. Ding! Summoning system to serve you. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner gift pack. Ding! Congratulations to the host for receiving the compensation gift package X1. With the sound of the system falling, soon a virtual attribute panel that only he could see popped up in front of him. Host. Dean Reading self-ability. Physical skills, evaluation. Poor, summoning point. 0, obtain method, complete task, or immediately drop from object, or exchange with demon fruit. Summoning characters. Currently unavailable inheritance. Currently unavailable, whenever the summoned character's progress increases, the host will have a chance to inherit some of the character's abilities. Warehouse. Beginner gift package X1, compensation gift package X1. Task. Complete the first summon, 0/1. Looking at the rules and regulations on attributes, Dean Reading is quite easy to understand, after all, they are all explained later. As for his own physical evaluation, which was poor, Dean Reading just smiled faintly. I have no choice, although I have traveled here for over a year. At the beginning, food and clothing became a problem, and there was no time to exercise. When he got better later on, he also had some simple physical exercises, but most of the time he was still running a tavern. After a rough understanding, Dean Reading has figured out the role. Summon people, because it is the system that reshapes their bodies. So it's not enough to fully unleash one's strength at once. It's necessary for the summoned person to slowly blend in with their body to achieve improvement, unleash their peak strength, and even surpass their peak. Moreover, those summoned, whether they are demons or monsters, are all 100% loyal to their hosts. As for the beginner gift package and compensation gift package, it's better to go home and watch it to avoid attracting the attention of those around you. Dean Reading murmured and then quickened his pace, quickly heading towards home. 06 Pride.Escano, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon returning home, Dean Reading closed the doors and windows, and drew the curtains. Sitting in the lobby, looking at the attribute panel that appeared in front of me, my heart couldn't calm down for a long time. Finally, the system that had been dormant for over a year has reappeared, Dean Reading sighed. The system reappears, and Dean Reading's life trajectory is destined to undergo earth-shattering changes. Activate the beginner's gift package system. Ding. Command received, opening now. Ding. Congratulations to the host for opening the beginner gift pack and obtaining the summoning card X1, ding. Congratulations to the host for opening the beginner's gift pack and gaining the 3-color dominance. Ding. Congratulations to the host for opening the beginner gift pack and obtaining the demonic constitution. This constitution is naturally possessed of strange power, strong and resilient body, extremely high defense, and has extremely high recovery ability. The words accompanying the system have just finished. Suddenly, Dean Reading's body began to emit hot steam. The pain of countless cuts also followed. Ah! He instinctively collapsed to the ground. The skin of the body is beginning to peel off at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, as soon as it peeled off, a new layer of skin grew out at the speed of the naked eye. The process lasted approximately 4 to 5 minutes. Dean Reading stood up with slightly trembling legs. He didn't want to try again for the sour feeling just now. Although the process of transformation was terrible, I now clearly feel that my former self is completely different from my current self, and the cells on my body are very active. Dean Reading sighed, this demon's physique is really a very good ability. In addition, with the acquisition of 3-color dominance, it is not difficult to achieve something as long as one puts in some effort to cultivate. Next is the compensation gift package. It's been a year late, and I hope this compensation gift package can get something good. Dean Reading eagerly said and quickly gave instructions to the system. Open the compensation package. Ding. Command received, opening compensation gift package. Ding. Successfully activated, congratulations to the host for obtaining the direct inheritance card X1, using it will directly obtain an ability on the summoned person, upgraded version. Upon seeing this prompt from the system, Dean Reading groped his chin. How to say it? This so-called inheritance card can be said to be good or bad. It was agreed it is that Dean Reading can directly choose one of the abilities of the summoned person, and it is an upgraded version. I can't say it well if the first person summoned is someone without any strength, then the role of this inheritance card will not be significant. Of course, some may say that it can be kept for other powerful people in the summoning path to use. But if that's really the case, so, it will be a big discount. Now Dean Reading is the time when strength is most needed. Next, I hope the first one can summon a more powerful character. After a murmur, Dean Reading quickly began to summon. Use summoning cards. Ding. Command received, summoning now. Ding. Congratulations on the successful summoning of the host and obtaining Escano from 7 Deadly Sins. Escano. When Dean Reading heard the name, the corners of his mouth slightly curved upwards. Yes, as a former anime enthusiast, Escano is no stranger to him. He is a very special person. In the original work, he served as one of the members of the Knights of the 7 Deadly Sins, the crime of arrogance. Why is he special? This also needs to start with his magical power, the sun. This ability is quite unique. When there is no sun, that is, at night, Escano's body will become very thin and small, and his personality will also change accordingly, becoming lacking in confidence, cowardly, and very insecure, thinking that he should not have been born in this world. In the morning, the body grows strong muscles and begins to become less cowardly and insecure. Eyes become arrogant, and one's own strength will undergo significant changes. Finally, especially towards noon, his abilities will reach their maximum potential. Abbreviation. At night, being born human, I am very sorry. Horizontal approval, during the day, I am the only one in the sky and the world. Sure enough, heaven still favors me. Dean Reading murmured excitedly, even before Escano appeared, he wanted to see what the ability to inherit the upgraded version of the sun was like. Use inheritance card. Ding. Please select the target audience. 1. Eska, 2 is currently unavailable. 1. Please select ability, 1, sun, 2, currently unavailable. Escano has only one ability, but just one. Dean Reading is also satisfied. After all, Dean Reading is well aware of the power of this ability. 1. Are you sure? Introduction to upgraded abilities. In order to have better practicality and eliminate side effects, this ability has been changed to be available for use at any time, unaffected by time. It will be activated by one's own strength, what strength can be exerted, and it will depend on one's own strength. Using the sun ability will not cause any changes to the body, note. The stronger the container of the body becomes, the more complete power can be exerted. The ability host can also choose to inherit the original version, as long as the command inherit the original version needs to be entered. Dean Reading frowned slightly as he looked at the pop-up introduction. Yes, anyone with a bit of brain will not inherit the original version. Otherwise, if you encounter danger at night and have only one companion, Escano. Good guy, the successful team is destroyed. 07, this person can't handle it. There's a trap to pull friends together. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay. Dean Reading said firmly, accompanied by his words falling. Quickly, in front of him, a golden spot of light was gradually forming at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, it transforms into a small sun-like structure. Before Dean Reading can react and see what this little sun has to do, the little sun rushed directly into his body. And Dean Reading instinctively took a step back. What? Following closely, a warm current began to spread throughout his body. Ding! Inherited and upgraded version successfully. Who? Dean Reading let out a soft sigh. He had thought he would suffer as much as obtaining the demon constitution before, but now it seems that he has overthought it. After the inheritance was completed, a ray of light quickly shone again in front of Dean Reading. The next second, a white humanoid dummy appeared out of thin air and appeared in front of Dean Reading. With the injection of the previous light, the dummy slowly became lively, and its skin color was becoming normal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, a thin and frail man with short brown hair and loose clothes and pants was reflected in Dean Reading's eyes. Obviously, it is the 7 major sins, the arrogance of one of the members of the Knights, Escano. With a sound of dang. Behind Escano, a heavy one-handed axe also fell. Yes, this one-handed axe is Escano's weapon. The divine axe Rita. With a click. Several visible cracks appeared on the floor. I'm sorry, Mr. Dean Reading. I just arrived and caused you such trouble. Escano had a submissive appearance, and even with this skill, he dared not look directly at Dean Reading. His performance was even troubled by Dean Reading. Fortunately he did not inherit the original version of the magic sun, otherwise, at night, he would be designated to be like Escano. Then during the day, one becomes even more arrogant than the other. However, Dean Reading also noticed that as soon as Escano arrived, he called out his name. Presumably by the time he came over, the system had already conveyed a certain message to him. This is actually better, and it saves me the time to introduce myself over and over again. Escano, It's not like that. Dean Reading gently stroked his head, his face speechless. I'll take it away right away. Escano quickly turned around and reached out to pick up the divine axe Rita, but no matter how hard she tried, the divine axe Rita remained indifferent. Stay somewhere, Dean Reading explained, originally wanting to bring some wine to celebrate the arrival of his new partner. But upon closer inspection, I realized that the wine I brought back from the tavern had already been consumed by myself. Let's go. Dean Reading finished speaking and walked towards the direction of the gate with a diameter. Where are you going, Mr. Dean Reading? Isn't it necessary to celebrate the arrival of new friends? With a click, the door had already been opened by Dean Reading. Escano followed behind and didn't say much. The bright moon is in the sky, and the stars are shining brightly. The originally crowded streets at night. Only a few scattered people can be seen now. Don't think too much, Dean Reading also knows the reason behind this. Most people went to join in the fun. Dean Reading's home is not far from the tavern. So, not long after, Dean Reading and Escano arrived at the tavern. Soon, Dean Reading stood on the bar and skillfully mixed the wine. After a long time, the two sat at a table. Cheers. The world welcomes you, Escano. Dean Reading enthusiastically raised his cup, and the arrival of Escano could be considered as giving him a man in this world who could be worth his back. Mr. Dean Reading, please take good care of me in the future. Escano also raised his cup, but his expression was very unnatural. Dean Reading frowned and thought to himself, great system, you're so capable. Why can't we remove these bad personalities from Escano? But on second thought it doesn't seem necessary either. Because once he did, Dean Reading felt that all he summoned was just a shell. Just as Dean Reading was thinking this, suddenly the door of the tavern was pushed open. Sorry, it's closed now. Before the rest could be said, Dean Reading had already turned his head, but what caught his eye was a familiar figure. Gullah. Sorry, I'm not here to buy alcohol. I'm here to grab some alcohol and drink. Dean Reading, did you think you put something in the drink? I feel like I'm addicted and coughing while drinking other types of alcohol. Edward. Dean Reading looked at Whitebeard with a slightly surprised expression in his eyes. At this moment, where was the big banquet held by Rox in today's duel? In theory, shouldn't Whitebeard be there? Why did you come to your own tavern? Okay, you kid, you secretly hid and drank. Whitebeard was also polite. When he arrived at the tavern, he felt as if he had returned home. As soon as he sat down, he poured the fine wine that Dean Reading had just prepared into his glass and took a sip. Subsequently, a satisfied expression bloomed on his face. Sure enough, this wine is still delicious, is this one? Whitebeard said, his gaze fixed on Escano beside him. The new recruit of the tavern, you guy. Shouldn't you celebrate with them by drinking? Why did you come to me? Dean Reading asked in reverse. Dean Reading. I feel like I made a wrong decision. As Whitebeard spoke these words, his expression suddenly became serious. Collaborate with Rox. Dean Reading casually asked. Gullah. Sure enough, you still understand me. Just now, the Rox Pirates team was formed. How about it, Dean Reading? Do you want to come and accompany me? Dean Reading rolled his eyes and sarcastically said, all right, Edward, you can't deal with this friend. There's a trap for you. 08 Navy. They're here, begging for flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing Dean Reading say this, Whitebeard couldn't help but laugh. Fool, don't say that. You, Dean Reading, it's hard for me to find someone I can confide in. How could I possibly pull you into a tiger's den? At this point, Whitebeard's expression became a bit serious before continuing to speak. To be honest, when I found out that Rox's goal was to recruit people with some means on the island to board the ship, I heard someone recommend you. Ah. Obviously, after Dean Reading heard Whitebeard's words, he couldn't calm down a bit. How could I be so virtuous and capable? Surprisingly, someone would recommend me in front of Rox. You heard me wrong, I don't know how to fight and kill. Why did you recommend me? Maybe you want me to board the ship and make a bar for you. You answered correctly. Whitebeard drank another glass and nodded lightly. Dean Reading was a bit speechless, but with the personality of the guy from Rox, someone actually recommended him, and he did have some skills in mixing drinks, so it was very likely that he would pass him by. Oh, I understand. It's not by chance that you came to me tonight, was it Rox who sent you here? Dean Reading asked, and he said, well, during this time period, we should be celebrating with the Rox and his gang. Why did they come here? That's indeed a good reason. Whitebeard has nothing to hide from Dean Reading. So, what are you planning to do? Edward. Gullah. What else can I do? Didn't I just tell you? I don't want you to board the ship, Rox. This ship is not something you can stay on, Dean Reading. You must not see the surface scenery of him, but the inside is actually an abyss. Whitebeard gave a warning. In fact, without Whitebeard's advice, Dean Reading is also more aware of the wickedness of the Rox pirates than Whitebeard. Whenever he had the opportunity to choose, he would not be willing to board that ship. How do you plan to report back? Dean Reading continued to ask. You don't have to worry about it. I told Rox, you're my friend, you just want to live a simple life, he won't make things difficult for you. Because the bartender can search for many, but as someone who ate the earthquake-shaking fruit, I only have one. Ha ha ha. Dean Reading laughed heartily and said, so, do I owe you Edward a favor? Of course, but I don't expect you to repay it either. Just bring me a few large barrels of fine wine and leave. Fuck you, think beautifully. Ah, what are you talking about, you probably can't bear to part with it. Ask knowingly. You guy, why are you so stingy? You didn't go there generously either. I don't care, I'm going to take a few big buckets with me. Originally, I wanted to take everything with me, but I only took a few big buckets with me as if you were a close friend. Not as black as you are, Edward. What kind of thing is that? At the same time, there was also a lively atmosphere on the side of Rox. A pirate group had just been established, and in addition to preparing pirate flags, Rox also had to select someone with the ability to become a cadre. As for the ship's regulations, Rox is very relaxed. Everything on board is mainly based on strength, and the cadres are not fixed. They were not selected for the first time, but those who believe they have strength are completely challenged. However, failure comes at a cost. The bright moon is in the sky, and the stars are shining brightly. The sea shimmered with ripples. Suddenly, at this moment, the sea began to ripple in layers. As the ripples grow larger, take a closer look. Dozens of warships are sailing rapidly in the waters not far from Hachinos. Yes, Navy, they're here. According to our intelligence personnel in Hachinos, the situation was indeed as expected by Marshal Clay, as a group led by Rox, Edward Newgate, Charlotte Lingling, Ski, and others gave birth to the Rox pirates. As the intelligence personnel reported, Admiral Bounier frowned slightly and said coldly, is it led by Rox? Damn it, we've really gathered all these tricky guys together. We have always been one step late. General Bounier, Marshal Clay has issued the latest order to eliminate the pirates led by Rox at all costs, continued the intelligence officer. At any cost. Is it possible to count other innocent residents on the island among them? After hearing the order, Bounier's expression became even more solemn. Yes. The intelligence officer spoke up. At this moment, a self-doubt arose in Bounier's mind. Is everything the world government does truly just? Is the actions of the Navy really just? The justice he longed for, it's not the kind in front of me. This is completely in line with the justice he hopes for, and it's getting further and further away. General Bountier, please draft a combat plan. Suddenly, the naval lieutenant beside him spoke out. Who? Isn't Marshal Clay already drafted the battle plan? Although there were some deviations during the process, the results were all the same. In order to prevent these despicable guys from walking out of here alive, it is also possible to sacrifice some insignificant people. The following words were obviously words that Bountier comforted himself with. Send the order, everyone prepare for the battle. Yes. On another warship. Cap, take it easy. This time. We're facing that guy from Rox. On the deck of the ship, looking at the enthusiastic Kapu, the Warring States felt a little uneasy and said. 09 Whitebeard. You guy, you can also smell the color. You are listening at novel full.audio. Facing the words of the Warring States period, Kapu didn't take them seriously. He slightly raised the corner of his mouth and said with enthusiasm on his face. It's because it's Rox that I'm full of energy and excited. You guy. The Warring States period seemed somewhat speechless, and just as he was about to refute something, the crane on the other side spoke out. Warring States period, it's not the first time you've met Kapu, so you know, no matter how much you say, he won't listen. Who? During the Warring States period, he lightly stroked his head. Indeed, as the crane said, once this guy Kapu identifies something, 10 horses cannot be pulled back. Forget it, whatever you want. Anyway, what needs to be reminded has already been reminded to you. If you suffer losses then, you can only blame yourself, Kapu. Warring States waved his hand and said earnestly. Cap laughed heartily and retorted, during the Warring States period, I was excited, not without reason. That guy from Rox, although I haven't dealt with him before, his situation is still vivid in my mind. However, this time we came with the Bountier family, and we shouldn't have dealt with Rox. But. At this point, Cap let out a sinister smile and continued, but. I will fight for it. As soon as the words fell, suddenly a loud voice rang out. Strive for your head, Cap. You're always so reckless, you'll ruin your life. Upon hearing the sound, everyone turned around and walked towards them, who was a sturdy man with a Moxido hairstyle. Yes, he is the commander-in-chief of the future world government in the original work, Steelbone Kong. However, the position he currently holds, he is a Navy Lieutenant General. Steel Frame. Steelbone Sky walked slowly to the front and said seriously, this operation, we don't need to engage in a frontal confrontation. What we need to do is to be responsible for clearing the miscellaneous soldiers. When taking action, the 3 of you follow me. Yes. Warring States and Crane nodded. Cap pouted and nodded along, but he had his own caution in his heart. As soon as he landed on the island, he would find an opportunity to move freely. As for the island of Hachinos at this moment, the arrival of the Navy, whether it was Rox and others, or other people on the island, was still unknown. Most of the people in Rox were still indulging in the joy of celebration and had never expected the Navy to launch a surprise attack during this time period. Dean Reading is also chatting with Whitebeard in the tavern. We should be leaving tomorrow, I don't know when the next meeting will be, Beard said while drinking and discussing his itinerary with Dean Reading. When we meet again, we'll have enough of the drinks. Dean Reading said confidently with a smile. Whitebeard smiled but remained silent, staying here and chatting with Dean Reading always gave him a very relaxed feeling. By the way, if any pirates come over and cause trouble in the future, you can report my name. Dean Reading nodded. Perhaps it was still very useful to him before, but now everything is different now. He awakened the system, gained the demonic constitution, gained the tricolor dominance, and inherited the son of Escano. Surprisingly, I'll give you a big gift as well. When you set sail tomorrow, I'll set off some fireworks and wish you all the best, Dean Reading said with a smile. However, just as he finished speaking, there was suddenly an explosion outside. Roaming. The three of them listened, looked at me, looked at you, and then burst out laughing. Is it a bit early? I haven't even left yet. Gullah. And Dean Reading also improvised and said, well, it's a bit early indeed. Although everyone heard the commotion, they all thought it was coming from Rox's side, so they didn't take it to heart. Shoo. Above the sky, there came the sound of tearing through the air. Whitebeard and Dean Reading's own observations and aura instantly sensed danger. Baihu Z was about to reach out and grab Dean Reading and Escano, but to his surprise, Dean Reading spoke out first. Quickly dodge. Whitebeard was slightly taken aback, but didn't think much and immediately jumped back. And Dean Reading and Escano were dodging towards the other side. The next second, right where they had just been drinking, a pitch-black shell fell and exploded instantly. Boom. Inside the tavern, everything was in chaos in an instant, with a raging fire igniting and thick smoke spreading in all directions towards the tavern. Dean Reading. Whitebeard held Song Yunxia in his hand and shouted in the direction of smoke and dust. Don't worry, I'm not dead. Inside the smoke and dust, there came Dean Reading's voice. Damn it, what's going on? Is it Rox? No. It shouldn't be him. Just as Whitebeard was pondering what was going on, the sound of tearing the air came again from the sky. Shoo, shoo, shoo. His eyes looked up slightly. At the moment, the dense shells were falling like a rainstorm. This formation. Damn it, it should be the Navy coming. Schwa schwa. Dean Reading leaped up and came to Whitebeard's side. Navy. Speaking of the Navy, Dean Reading instantly understood that the target of the Navy's trip was probably Lox. But what he couldn't figure out was, your target is Lox. Damn it, you're bombing Lox. What's going on with you bombing me? What Dean Reading didn't notice was that Whitebeard was looking at him with eerie eyes. Dean Reading, you guy. You'll also be able to smell the color and be domineering. 10 me. It's the sun, seeking flowers, seeking collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dean Reading was momentarily taken aback by the sudden question about Whitebeard, and then glanced at him in the afterglow before whispering. Now. It's not the time to say that, is it? Indeed, it is. Whitebeard did not continue to inquire, only to see his hand holding Song Yunxia exerting a slight force and standing Song Yunxia on the ground. Following closely, a transparent halo instantly wrapped around his fist. As a passerby, Dean Reading could see at a glance that Whitebeard was about to unleash his demonic fruit, the ability to shake fruits. Shock-absorbing fruit, after consumption, can cause vibrations in the sky, earth, atmosphere, and ocean at will, and has extremely strong physical destructive power. In the original work, it is also referred to as the power to destroy the world by the Buddha of the Warring States period. At this moment, Whitebeard swung his fist and activated his ability to shake the fruit. An invisible force charged towards the incoming shell. In an instant, the shells falling from the sky were instantly detonated. Roaming. Roaming. The rolling black smoke made the original night even darker, and I couldn't see my fingers when I reached out. Of course, the Whitebeard only prevented a small part from falling into this area, while other areas may not have such good luck. The sound of explosions was continuous, and the flames generated by the explosions were particularly prominent in this pitch-black night. Just as Dean Reading and others wanted to breathe a sigh of relief, the second round of dense naval shells hit again. Shio shio shio. Damn it. It's here again. Whitebeard cursed. Although these shells had no killing effect on him, he had to defend himself. Just as Baihu Z was about to continue unleashing the devil fruit ability, Dean Reading spoke up. Let me give it a try. Whitebeard looked at Dean Reading with a slightly unexpected look, from the day he met to today. He used to think that Dean Reading was just an ordinary person without military force. But from the reaction of the shell falling just now, Whitebeard had an answer in his heart. That's it, this guy not easy. Whitebeard had just wanted to inquire about Dean Reading's background, but the timing was wrong. Now, Dean Reading is willing to show his strength, but how could he refuse? You guy. Hidden deep enough, I always thought you were just an ordinary person. Dean Reading gave a bitter smile as he walked forward and explained, don't misunderstand, I'm really just an ordinary person. Of course, the reason Dean Reading actively wanted to participate this time is still because he wanted to test his upgraded version of the sun's ability. I saw him slowly lift his hand, and in an instant, a fireball like the sun lit up the darkness. Following closely, the fireball was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. When it reached a certain size, with a gentle push from Dean Reading, the scorching fireball instantly rushed towards the sky. The massive fireball effortlessly devoured most of the shells in this area, and at the same time, the dazzling light, like the sun, directly illuminated most of the islands. So. What is that? A member of the Rox Pirates group spoke anxiously. It's like a fireball, another member responded. Fireball. Can your fireball, the size of a fireball, light up half an island? You're right, it's more like a sun than a fireball. 2. Is the sun? Whose demon fruit ability is that? No, I'm not sure. I seem to remember that within the rogue pirates, they didn't use abilities similar to the sun. I seem to remember it too. No, it shouldn't. On the island, anyone with strength has already joined the Rox Pirates. Is it difficult? There are still some experts on the island. Ahead, many crew members were discussing, while behind, Rox also looked puzzled. At this moment when they were discussing, the huge fireball crossed a bright line from the sky and then fell into the sea not far from where Rox was located. In an instant, a violent explosion occurred on the sea surface. The seawater evaporates along with it. Waves also rise into the sky. The huge hot air flow with a salty taste spreads in all directions. This fireball has such power. Indeed, if it were to hit me, I would probably turn into ashes directly. Who is it? Whose demon fruit ability is this? No. I don't know. From my observation, it seems that the demonic fruit that no one eats in our Rox Pirates is related to fire, right? And as he watched the fireball fall into the sea, Rox couldn't calm down anymore, with an excited smile on his face. It seems that there are other strong ones on the island that I haven't invited yet. Indeed, if a fireball could possess such power, it would definitely not be an ordinary person. The Golden Lion stood next to Rox and expressed his opinion. If this person can also join our Rox Pirates team, then there will be good combat power in our Pirates team. Longbread also smiled and said. In fact, at this moment, everyone also has their own careful thinking. However, the unified goal is to join the Rox Pirates. However, whether it's Ski, Charlotte Lingling, or other newly promoted officials. What they thought in their hearts was to invite this person to stand on their side after he joined the Rox Pirates. Captain. Let me handle this matter, I'll go see who the fireball really belongs to. The Golden Lion volunteered to find the owner of the fireball. Shiki, you're really quick. Charlotte Lingling said in a sinister tone, but she didn't explain her intention. Go ahead, Shiki, once you find him, please make sure to let him join us. Rox instructed. Don't worry, I will definitely complete this task beautifully. Chia ha ha ha. With the sound of laughter, the Golden Lion flew into the sky, flying rapidly towards the trajectory of the fireball just now.